imposter syndrome. I want to do this, but can I really do this? Or I know I need to do this. What if there's no space for that? What if they only want me to talk about business? What if I can't? That imposter syndrome that we all have.
Hmm.
How do you conquer that?
So I call this the energetic advantage. Number one is your energy. So how does your energy feel? So we talked about how you know as an early age, what you're here to do, your purpose. And sometimes we forget what that is and we have to kind of get back. So we got to check our energy. Where is our energy at? Are there places that we can really tweak and open up energetically to align ourselves to that higher vibration, that best life ever?
Hi, everyone. I am Julie Edmonds, your host of Channeled, tapping into the wisdom of your soul.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Channeled, tapping into the inner wisdom of your soul. Today, we have a lovely guest, Emily Ahrens, and she is an energy healer, a business coach, and a total soul-led powerhouse who's been helping conscious leaders feel better so that they can do better for over 24 years. She's the founder of the Mastery of Ascension app, host of the Aligned and Unstoppable podcast, with over 500,000 downloads, and someone who truly walks the walk when it comes to aligned success. So today we're diving into energy, intuition, burnout, and what it really means to run your business from a place of purpose. So welcome, Emily. So good to have you.
I'm so happy to be here, Julie. It's like this is my favorite thing to do, my favorite thing to talk about. These are my favorite people to chat with. So this is all good. It's gonna be a great episode.
Excellent, excellent. Well, my world, it's all entrepreneurs and fast-paced, high-performance individuals, and I know you can totally relate with that. So let's just dive right into it. You've been in the healing space for over 2 decades, and how did this journey begin for you?
It's funny. I feel like from a really young age, I was 5 years old in my little kindergarten journal. I wrote, I want to be a doctor so I can help people. And I look back at that and I'm like, you know what? I knew at that young age that there was something more to my life. I knew I wanted to help people. And I actually had a client yesterday that she remembered when she was a kid, she said she wanted to be a veterinarian. She loved animals, and now she's in her late 50s, starting her career over. She's a photographer, does branding and headshots, and she's now reaching sort of that place of going, I really want to get into pet photography and pet communication. And you look back at these stories, it's like, we all know at a young age, and at some point, somebody, which is her father in her case, who said, no, you can't do that. Don't be a vet, or, don't be a lawyer. But for me at a young age, I knew what I wanted to do. And when I was about, I think, 7 years old, my parents were divorced, and we had rented a room in our house to a woman who did Reiki. Now, I never received Reiki. We never even talked about Reiki, but it was enough to plant a seed that for my adolescence, I started using all of my babysitting money and allowance money to buy books on homeopathy and aromatherapy and astrology and natural healing. And I went directly into learn how to be a healer when I graduated high school. I just always knew. And I also knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I said, you know what? My 5-year reunion, I'm going to have a business and everyone is going to have college debt. And that was actually exactly how it happened. I did
Wow.
have a business. My first business was a wellness center. I opened it when I was 22 years old. I was a partner. I was in a partnership and younger than all my fellow partners by a decade. And yet I was the one who was really driven to write a business plan that I later won a business plan award for. I was always really wanting to help people on a global scale. Turned out my partners wanted to just stay really small and local. So we had a difference of opinion. But I've always felt this urge to help people at a larger scale. And about 9 years ago, I shifted from my model of being in a brick and mortar one-on-one to being online and helping people globally in large capacities. I've had events that have had 15,000 registrants and hosting energetic events over Zoom and over Facebook Live and over YouTube Live. So I've really transformed from this sort of small town shop to really being able to impact people on a global scale. And I still feel like I've just scratched the surface. I feel like I'm just kind of getting my sea legs, and I love speaking and I love writing and being able to help people on a deep, profound level. And I feel like the world is ready for it right now.
I love that you said all that. And I love that you just knew from a very early age that you wanted to be a healer. And you mentioned your friend that just obviously knew, like we all do as a young age, but went in a different direction and then full circle back as she got older. So, what would you say to women or people, particularly that just had that calling when they were really young, but then they listened to society or their parents or something else that really wasn't aligned with their soul? And so they started, those marching orders in a different direction, but inside there's something, that alignment, that misalignment. What would you say to them?
I would say let go of any guilt or shame or feeling like you're too old to start over, because we were all just doing the best we could. And the people who gave you that terrible advice back then were also doing the best that they could based on what they knew and experienced. And, we've grown up in the era where, you had to go to college and get a degree, and then you got a good paying job. And at this point, not everybody who's massively successful or the richest person in the world has a college degree or those credentials. So
Right.
we've actually seen this sort of paradigm shift in our lifetime, that these things that used to be the focal point have shifted, and it's in you. It's been given to you. It's part of you.
You're so right. Just start, just start. But so many people just start and then they stop. You mentioned earlier, let go of the guilt, let go of the shame. And, that's easy to say, right? Did you ever have guilt and shame? And, what were some of the practices, or how do you coach your clients to get over that guilt and shame?
I've had clients who start and stop or have these false starts, and they get into a belief system that they can't do it until X, let's just say. The thing is, not everybody is made to be an entrepreneur. It's not for everybody. I can tell you that running a business and being an entrepreneur is the catalyst for your deepest spiritual growth. There is no faster way that you figure out what your shadows are, where you are blocked, your shortcomings, how your trauma from your childhood is coming back to bite you, how your belief system of proving that you are not worthy enough shows up. I mean, like, I got chills just saying that one. That one's going to resonate. That one's going to resonate with the listeners. But really and truly, if you are ready to face some of those things, being an entrepreneur will present it on a silver platter for you. It's your choice whether you want to face it and process through it and heal through that and really do some deeper introspection and self-discovery, or you want to run into the closet under a comforter and hide from it. And I really believe as leaders, it's our job to be sort of on public display as we're processing, as we're healing, as we're growing. And it can be so vulnerable and exposing because we're supposed to like have it all figured out and be the expert. But listen, we're all on the path. We're all just taking one step at a time, and give yourself a few minutes to be with that, because we're so busy all the time, rushing through life from one thing to the next, that we skip that place to have pause and to recharge and to listen. And one of the things that I've done for years and helped tens of thousands of entrepreneurs do is listen to their intuition, who we are. And some of the most successful people in the world have attributed their biggest decisions to trusting their instincts, to listening to their intuition, that it wasn't some advisory council, it wasn't some coach, it wasn't a book or a guru. It was that they listened internally. Because I really believe we all have that internal GPS, and you're going to get from point A to point B, even if the roads are out and there's detours. You're going to get there because you'll be guided there. So the fastest way for anybody, whether you're brand new to this or you're a little bit more seasoned, is to start listening to the little nudges about the dumbest things. And by dumbest things, I mean like when I wake up in the morning, how do I want to feel? Set your tone, set your intention. How do I want to feel? And let's say I want to feel really abundant today. I want to feel really alive. I want to feel really abundant today. And then you go to make your breakfast and you're like, oh, I just have cereal and cereal makes me feel like shit. And I don't like how, like, okay, so let's make a choice that aligns you to that abundance frequency. Treat yourself. Maybe you put a special like frothed milk into your coffee. I don't know. But it's like these little silly things that these small decisions that seem insignificant are really aligning you to that vibration, that frequency, so that you can feel more connected to your knowing.
Totally, totally. You said the small decisions when they feel insignificant. So it's like practice when the stakes are low. So if you mess up, no one's watching, right? When those
Exactly. And like I remember one time my guides gave me this analogy. They're like, that friend that you have that you give advice to about their dating life and they never listen and you're just like you feel like you're banging your head on the desk like why they keep doing that stupid thing. That's how your guides feel. They're with us all the time. No matter what, always supporting you, loving you, trying to guide you just ever so slightly. And when you're like, I don't have time for that, I'm too busy. I gotta go this
right,
way. Right. So it's like, they're like, fine. And then I won't just keep giving you these little nuggets. All right. It's the same way.
right. You get more when you ask for more. So
Yeah.
you said something that really gave me chills, and you said about entrepreneurship is I'm like paraphrasing here, but the most soul driven art or path that you can take, because you are faced with your shadows, you are faced with your traumas, and everything's displayed right in front of you. And so what do they say, become humbled or humiliated, whatever it is. Can you share? And you said, you definitely have to overcome some of those traumas or some of those shadows. So if we were to get a little vulnerable here, Emily, would you be able to share maybe something in your past that you had to face, how you actually overcame that to just, jump over that obstacle and keep going and become the Emily that you are today?
Julie and all my new friends here listening, I have no problem being completely transparent. I think that's one of my superpowers. And this is not something that's happened in my distant past. This has happened within the last quarter. Okay. So I was being particularly hard on myself recently. My husband and I were chatting, and he's like, why are you beating yourself up? You're so hard on yourself. So everybody in the room, raise your hand if you're an overachiever. We're all here. This is a safe space. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And I just stopped. I'm like, no, when I'm coaching my clients and they say, I don't know, I just sit there and give an awkward pause and let them answer it. So I did that for myself and I got quiet and I'm like, why am I so hard on myself? And immediately it popped into my head. I feel like the more success I achieve, the more I'm worthy of love. And I said that to my husband. He's like, that's ridiculous. What are you even, right? He's like, what are you talking about? Who's love? Now, my husband, as you can probably imagine, he's very like from this tone, he's very like, as a matter of fact, like he doesn't sugarcoat. He's not like as spiritual as I'm in the same way. But he held up the mirror and he's like, what are you talking about? Who's love? And I was like, my parents. And I just started bawling my eyes out. And this abandonment wound that, this is the thing we say, oh, I thought I healed that. I thought I healed my daddy wound. I thought I healed that trauma from back then. Listen, it's kind of like if you're sweeping a staircase, you sweep the bottom step. That step is so good. It's so clean. But guess what? You have a whole staircase ahead of you. So as we ascend, we go to that next level vibrationally, intellectually, financially, spiritually. We got more stairs to clean. So we're never done. It's a journey of healing. It's like, okay, from that level, we're good, but now we're at another level. And so I really got to have a good cry about that. But also, one of the things he said to me, I was crying a lot that day, and we went for a walk. I was talking about, it, and I'm like, this belief is ruining my life because I can see how that belief infiltrates everything that I do, how I speak, what I offer, how I'm coaching. Like, this is a really interesting thing that just showed up for me. And he said, you know what, Emily, you could be filling stadiums and they still wouldn't think that you were that great. I was like, Oh, that is true. That is so true. And the thing is, like, we're all little children, just in adult bodies. We've gone through a few extra decades since we were kids, but we still have these tender areas in ourselves. We still want to be loved and accepted. It's human nature. And I think that's part of why entrepreneurship can feel so vulnerable and so raw because if we're putting an offer out, it's like we're putting ourselves out there and saying, will you love me? Do you accept me? Do you want me? And if people don't buy, we can make that mean something like we're terrible, we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, people don't want it, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I mean, thanks for sharing. I mean, look, we all have those, right? And it's interesting because I'm in a space of hypnotherapy, and a lot of those blocks are so unconscious. We don't know them until we do the work, until we dig deep. We have those quiet moments. We go into meditation, mindfulness, or whatever your practice is. But there's another part to that because you said your belief that you uncovered in that moment was I need to be successful to be loved. Now, from a logical perspective, we can say, well, that's ridiculous. I'm
Totally.
I'm successful and I can be loved and I can be loved for just who I am. I am enough. I am worthy. I am successful. I'm good enough. I'm strong enough. I'm worthy. I'm available, et cetera, et cetera. But that's from our logical side of our brain. But when there's some deep down broken record, well, I call it a broken record, but it's that replay of that old belief that's what are your practices for one is the awareness piece, right?
Mm.
Because I know our minds learn by repetition. And that repetition for so long must have been playing, I need to be successful to be loved. Clearly that's been repeated and so how do we break that neural pattern and what are your practices and start saying, wait, I don't need to be successful to be loved, because you can't just do it once like we know and then go, oh, okay, I have this awakening. What do you do to rewire that? What's your
That's
practice?
that's a great follow-up question. And I mean, I'm not trained in hypnosis or NLP, but I do understand that I think about 86% of our thoughts are unconscious. And so, yes, our conscious mind is this teeny tiny percentage that says, like, I'm worthy. But if the other 86% is like, we got work to do. So, and actually, my husband did say, he's like, who told you that? I'm like, apparently my subconscious. I didn't know that thought came from. I never even thought of it because it never occurred to me.
Right.
So it wasn't like I was thinking it even in my head. There's
It's
sometimes.
always subconscious. It's always under, like you said, the steps. It's somewhere that I don't even know about. You're right.
Yep. So I had to take a dose of my own medicine. So what I did in that situation specifically was I did some journaling. Each of my parents individually, what I would like to say to them. I didn't
Yeah.
literally say this. I did this in my journal because it was a safer place to really express myself. And I know in this 3D reality, if I brought that conversation to them, it would not be warmly welcomed in my family. So I journaled it out. And then I took that piece of paper, I folded it up, and I took a mixing bowl and I went outside with my lighter and I lit it on fire. And I said, I release you. Another page in my journal around these healed parts of myself and what is working for me and what I am proud of and how I am worthy. And then I also went into my energy field and I felt, where do I feel this in my physical body? Where is this lingering in my energy body? And then other folks take it to the next level where not only do they know what is going on, but then we clear the things that are blocking. So I cleared the things that I was being blocked on in that instance. So
How
um,
do you clear? Can you like is there a practice, like a
yeah,
hack?
so energetically, so I've been doing this work for 25 years. So for me, it's second nature. I just, kind of snap my fingers and it moves the energy. But for the layman, the person who's never done this before, the simplest thing that you can do is set your intention to bring white light, healing energy, and your intention is to release what is no longer serving you, and then call in the things that are going to support you and serve you in that space. So it's kind of like out with the old, in with the new. That's as simple as it needs to be. And, when I work with clients individually or within groups, that's a lot of what I do. And I've led, I guess, hundreds of meditations at this point where we go through a guided meditation where you're kind of systematically going through every area of your energy field, clearing, repairing, and aligning, bringing it back into harmony. And then from that beautiful state, you're raising your frequency. What is that beautiful life, happily ever after. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Let's raise you to that frequency and then start to bring more things into your life at that level.
So the ritual for you would be first the awareness. And I love that you have a partner that can just hold up a mirror for you to realize the greatest part of you. Because sometimes people have these trauma bonded partners that are just reflecting the worst part. So I love that you said that about your husband. So the second part after the awareness is journaling. And you wrote a letter to your parents. And, we know that our minds don't know what's real and what's not. And so you said, I wouldn't have been welcomed if I told them out loud, but I could do it on paper. And telling it on paper is telling your mind that you are having that conversation. So it does create that space, right? You burned it. The third part was just allowing those emotions. And so I think working with a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly men, they start to, I know sometimes when I'm doing a hypnosis practice, they'll start feeling, and they get in their feelings and then they stop. They're ashamed that they're going to cry, or, what would you say to that? Like, the emotions, and that's like sort of the key. We say what we hide becomes crippled inside. What would you say to like letting those emotions flow?
It is so, I mean, that is such a sad thing, because forever, I mean, centuries, men have been told, boys don't cry, stuff it down, man up. These are so toxic
I have
for,
chills right now. The whole side of my body is just
yeah,
chills.
it is so toxic. So I am lucky enough that I have two little boys, and I get to raise men who have empowered masculine energy versus this toxic masculinity that most men, adult men, have been raised to believe. And they've been said that, you can have a couple emotions. You can be happy and you can be angry. Those are both fine. Anything sort of in between that, questionable. And a lot of times, anger, when we're expressing anger, what's underneath it is actually deep sadness. And so it is safer for a man to feel angry than to feel sad. And gosh, don't you just like, doesn't your heart just break for all the grown men in your life? Like they've never been able to express sadness or grief or this wide range of emotions. And I bought this emotion wheel on Amazon, and it's sort of a breakdown of these sort of 6 core emotions, and then it breaks those down into 3 more, and then from there 3 more, so that I can teach not just my kids but also my husband what is the emotion that you're feeling. Like maybe you're angry, but actually it's not anger, it's frustration, or it's loneliness, or whatever that thing is, because kids now are raised with a spectrum of emotional intelligence. So if we get stuck in that place where it's coming up, typically when I'm coaching, again, I fully believe in allowing my clients to process in the way that they need to, in the time that they need to. You can't force somebody to cry if they're not ready to go there. And creating a safe enough space where they can let that guard down and just be an emotional mess is one of the best gifts that you can give to somebody. And so sometimes in those places where I see the welling up of tears, whether it's men or women, I mostly work with women, but it doesn't matter. If you see that sort of welling up happening, don't skate by it. Don't bypass it. Just hold that space and just ask. I saw something came up there for a second. Did you want to share a little bit what was going on for you? What came up for you? And sometimes they'll say, I'm not really wanting to talk about it, or maybe they'll say, here's what came up, and they share a story, and those tears overflow. So, I think it's also an interesting thing as entrepreneurs. We are supposed to have it all figured out and all polished and all shiny and, well put together. And I've been in spaces with fellow entrepreneurs where I felt like this is some phony BS. Like, I'm not feeling anybody's real authenticity here. Everybody is like the Instagram versions of themselves. And I remember being at one event and somebody's like, you're exactly like you are online. You are just like that in person. I'm like, I have
Authentic.
one feed. I just am this. I don't have this version of me and that version of me. I'm just who I am. And I think that comes with a lot of deep work on myself and really accepting who I am and knowing who I am. but also my knowing myself and feeling comfortable and safe in myself allows me to hold space for other people to come to their truth and to be honest with themselves. I'm not typically insecure, but sometimes I can be a little shy. But it's that light that I bring to the space that either people gravitate towards it like a moth to the flame, or they want to snuff it out. And I've had many situations throughout my life where people see that light and they're like, no, not in this space. And they do things to try to harm me or sabotage me or whatever. So
What
again,
does
I
that
feel
look like if somebody is trying to dim your light? Because I do get that with women that are trying to dim and then they get harmed. So then they just stay in that safe, like you mentioned earlier, get in your closet, pull the blanket over you and stay in that comfortable protective zone. What does that look like and how do you overcome that? That's a really good point, Emily.
well, you know what? I had this really incredible experience where I was a manager at a retail store. And one of my co-managers who made the schedule would purposely give me a printout of the wrong schedule that I would show up to open the store at 7 a.m. But then there would be other people there who were open and they'd be like, "Why are you here?" And I would say, "Because it's on my schedule." And I remember numerous times showing my fellow managers, like, this is the schedule that I gave. And they're like, that's not the schedule. This is the schedule. And we're all looking and comparing schedules. Like, why would you go out of your way to do that? Like, I think, and like, that's the thing is like, that says more about that person and where they're at, that they would take the time out of their day to make a schedule incorrectly, print it, put it in my inbox, make sure that I had it, and then change it again. That they would take that much time and energy to try to do that to me. That says a
Can
lot
you
about
say that again? Can you say that? I think that was great. It's about them because a
yeah.
lot of times we internalize it, or as women or whoever's like feeling this, they start to internalize it like, oh my God, what did I do wrong that I deserve this? Why am I being treated this way? Versus in like flipping the switch, turning that perspective. Were you always like that? Were you always able to see that way? Or was there something that you had to grow to or towards to be able to look at that perspective from a different way? And what would you tell other people on how to change that thought?
Okay, I'm gonna try to answer all those questions.
Sorry.
Oh, I have another one. These are great questions. I appreciate this conversation. This is so great. So, was I always like that? No, I used to be self-deprecating. I always thought I was the problem. I can be, I think my Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP, so I'm kind of like a golden retriever, and I just want to like be happy and go where everybody's happy. So, I want people to like me, and a lot of us, we want people to like us. And so, you know, when people throughout my life did things that were harmful to me, I did take it internal and I was like, what is it about me? Maybe it was a relationship that ended and, you know, they went out with somebody else and I'd be like, oh, okay, that must be terrible. Or, but it's taken years to really cultivate to understand that, you know what? I think it's really smart to take responsibility in your life, and it's not always your fault. I think it can be both and. Like, take responsibility for your life because that's the fastest way your life is going to change. When you're like, oh my God, my life is terrible, I hate everything in it, you're like the victim in your life, and that's ridiculous. Nothing is going to change because you won't take responsibility for it. Versus when you see that the life that you have is a direct response to your vibrational frequency. And what I like to compare it to is like a painting. I have this abstract painting behind me that my wonderful friend Jody made. If I have a white blank canvas and I start slinging paint all over it, and I'm like, oh, I hate it. Look, it's so messy. I don't like it. It's terrible. I can keep complaining about it and just say it's trash, or I can paint over it, or I can get a new canvas, start fresh, and give it what I want, put the colors on that I want, be more intentional more about it. And so I think that there is a place where we want to take responsibility, but we don't need to blame ourselves about everything. So it's a real delicate balance between like, this is what Emily does. She's going to bring up your stuff. Here's an opportunity to look at what's coming up, what's triggering you, what's activated in you. Can you lean into that and lean in for help and support? Or do you have to run out of the room? Because this is a place where you could go one of two ways, either lean in and get the support you need to work through it, or you could do what maybe you've always done and run from it and blame everybody else and say everything, this doesn't work for me. So it's kind of a tightrope sometimes. And we've had people come back and go, oh my God, like this is my shit. I'm really sorry. I just projected all this all over you and my bad. And we've also had people go the other way and be like, yep, you're terrible. Set the building on fire. So, I mean,
what do you do? Just throw it over your shoulder. We teach in sales, just the no is rejection, throw it over your shoulder. It's one of the fatal fears, right?
yeah. And I've lost what the other questions were, but hopefully I answered what
Well,
you.
I think I asked a lot of questions, but it was all really one question, and you did a great job answering. And that was a great example. I want to shift gears just a tiny bit. So earlier you said you wrote a letter to your parents. And you didn't want to say it out loud to them, right? But you said it to your soul, to yourself, to kind of lift. And I read a lot and I've studied a lot and I've done a lot of work in generational healing and generational trauma. And what can you speak on to that? Like, you know, I am doing this work now, this energy work, this healing work for myself. I have two beautiful kids and I have this garden and I have animals. It sounds like you have like this beautiful like area where you know, outside where you live. And do you feel, and how can you speak to when we do the work, it helps the generations after you?
Yeah. So this is where things might feel a little new and a little weird for some people. I really believe that we chose to come into this lifetime. And you can have different beliefs and we can still be friends. So um I believe that we chose to come into this life. I believe we chose to come into this life for a reason and to learn lessons and to help our soul evolve. And one of the first things that we do is we do choose our parents. We choose our parents for a reason. And for better or for worse, we can learn from their faults. We can learn from what they've succeeded in. And every hurdle, obstacle, challenge in our life, we put it there so that we could evolve, so that we could grow. And that's why sometimes we get these repeating patterns because we haven't quite got the hang of it, and we're just human after all. I mean, this is it. It's like, you know, a dress rehearsal, it feels like sometimes. And I really feel like the lessons that you learn from, heal from right here and now in this lifetime today, it is echoing through all space and time through the quantum field, because there's more than just here and now available to us. And so one of the best things and one of the best gifts that you can give to future generations and even past ancestors is to work on your own healing. Saying that, I feel that viscerally, and I also intellectually don't even know the depth of that. I can say in my meditative space, I've had guides take me back to ancient lifetimes and experience these things that are otherworldly. And I've been reborn in this lifetime to be an expression of that truth that at that time in history was not accepted. It was not okay. So we have these basic instincts. So that's the long answer to a short question, which is I believe that the healing that you do on yourself, whether it's journal practice, hypnosis, energy healing, whatever it is, that you are healing beyond your three-dimensional body.
And that is so great to know and to practice, because, you know, when people know that I'm not just healing myself, right? I'm healing everyone around me, everyone I influence, all the energy, the space that I take up, the generations, the ancestors before me, after me, within me. That was a beautiful answer. So thanks, Emily.
You're welcome.
Now I have a great question here. Sounds like you've been pretty solid on your path since you were a child. Has there ever been a moment where you felt like giving up, or you just didn't believe it, or you got disconnected, or you know what, I don't believe in myself anymore. I just can't follow my guides, or the energy's not there, or maybe I'm just making all this up. What if I'm just crazy?
Yeah. There was a period. So when I sold my business to my partners and I went off on my own, I had my own private practice. And then after a little while, I was like, you know what? I could use like a big girl job where they give me a 401k. That would be cool too. And I put my healing practice on the side and I went for a corporate job, and I was a senior executive assistant for these men who were richer than God. And they were working on like a kind of like a Wall Street sales floor in downtown Boston. And they wanted me to become a salesperson. Like, you've just got the personality, you've got the chops. I'm like, my soul is slowly leaking out of me right now. I can't go that far. Like, not that's too far. And I found my way back. But also in the last few years, I've reached a place in my business that it has been massively successful, but then I also have burnt myself out. And over the last year, a little bit over the last year, I've been really focusing on healing my own burnout, because I unconsciously subscribe to the belief that working harder and hustling and building funnels and having tripwires and having all of these various products and services was the right thing to do. And I believed it, and I did those things until it literally burnt me out. I just couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't feeling joy. I was feeling depleted, and my things weren't selling anymore. And even in the last year, while I'm healing burnout, I did question, like, maybe this just isn't my thing. Maybe I should get a job and this can just be, figure it out on the side somewhere. And yet I keep getting guided every single day that this is where I need to be. And in the last few weeks, I've had this very strong nudge from my soul around really owning my gifts, owning the space. I was talking to a friend and I said, listen, I don't like how things are feeling in my business. Like, I just need you to give me like a dope slap. Can you just like be brutally honest with me?
Like a slap.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I mean, you do it for me, I'll do it for you. Sure. I'm like, what am I doing? She's like, well, tell me the things that you don't like. And I told her, and she's like, well, yeah, you've said for years that you don't want to be doing that. And here you are doing that. And I'm like, ah, yeah, exactly.
Wow. Wait, can we pause for a minute?
Yes,
How many people probably wake up or think that or say that, and then they just don't do anything about it? Have we all been there? It took
totally. And
a friend to say it to you, right?
it's too obvious. And she's like, you have been saying you want to be a paid speaker. You've been wanting to work on your book. You've been talking about working with leaders and conscious entrepreneurs and like this higher level people, but like, you're working with those other people. And I'm like, oh, truth. And so from that moment on, I said to her, listen, is it that what I teach is just like nobody wants it? Or am I not marketing and speaking to it and really owning it? She's like, it's the latter. And she introduced me to somebody else on the line. She's like, look at this woman. She doesn't have the credentials you have. And yet she's talking about energy and getting paid 50K a pop for these huge corporations to talk about energy and alignment. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just need to embody who I really am. Stop doing all this busy work and just embody this truth in myself. And I think that's the hardest part for me personally as a trailblazer, because I don't know anyone who combines energy healing and business. I don't know anyone. And I remember years ago, I was talking to somebody at Hay House Publishing, and they're like, all right, so you've got a concept for a book. Is it going to be energy or is it going to be business? And I'm like, yes, it's both and. I don't
Not
I
or,
can't
it's and. It's not or, it's and, right.
I don't separate them. It's just who I am. And I've tried, but I just creep back in with energy stuff, or I creep back in with my business strategy stuff. And so I think that's something that I undervalue in myself as being a trailblazer. And I'm teaching things that are literally years ahead of what most people are doing and teaching. And I think that can be an interesting place where it's like, are we on to something or, or no? So I question myself all the time. And I think that's a healthy thing to do, to question yourself, to make sure that you are in check. And something that I said to a team member yesterday, I'm teaching what I need the most. And in that, I mean, I know that I need to shift my frequency. I know that my energy needs to be at a higher level. I know I need to embody with every cell of my being and believe in myself as the speaker and the author and the leader.
So can
And
you
then
speak to that, Emily? So I get that a lot with women of like, or questioning, well, I think women are more open about their feelings, but imposter syndrome. I want to do this, but can I really do this? Or I know I need to do this. What if there's no space for that? What if they only want me to talk about business? What if I can't? That imposter syndrome that we all have.
Hmm.
How do you conquer that?
So I call this the energetic advantage.
Great. I love that.
Thank you. So, number one is your energy. So, how does your energy feel? So, we talked about like, how you know as an early age what you're here to do, your purpose. And sometimes we forget what that is and we have to kind of get back. So, we got to check our energy. Where is our energy at? Are there places that we can really tweak and open up energetically to align ourselves to that higher vibration, that best life ever? The second part, so the first part is energy, the second part is embodiment. So when I think of my best life ever, and I'm sure with hypnosis clients, you get to sort of rewire their brains in this way. So you're going to understand, like, what does success look like to them? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What is the day in the life of your higher self, your most successful self, look like? When you see that version of yourself, can you embody that today in every decision you make, in the clothes that you wear, in the environment that you're in the people that you're near, in the food that you eat, in the practices that you do? Like, it's not going to be someday, one day when. It has to be today, now. Embody that. And so, I like to give this example because we all have the t-shirt with the armpit stains in it. We all have it. So we can ask that question, like, is my higher self, my most successful self, is she wearing this shirt? Is she wearing this shirt? Is she? And a lot of times our
I love
style,
that. It's so practical. I love it. Does she
so
have
practical.
holes in her socks?
Does she have holes in her socks, in her underwear? Like, does she have strings hanging? Right? And so, we can look at our style, our personal style, reflecting that energetic alignment and that vibration. And so, like, I love your shirt. It's so vibrant. That color is so nice on you. It looks silky and smooth, and it's abundant, and it's yummy. I love everything about that shirt because you get to put it on and you feel a certain way. I used to have a client and she'd put on those Christian Louis Vuitton shoes when she was on sales calls. No one could see her special shoes, but she was in her special shoes. And
Right.
these were her sales shoes. And she would make those sales because she was in her badass, sexy sales shoes.
It probably
And so
tapped
part
into
of
something, right? It tapped into her
it, you
authentic self, as you said.
And so, for example, one of my meditations is called Crystal Clear Success, and it walks you through a day in the life. Imagine how that looks and feels. If I am making gazillions of dollars, I'm going to wake up from my luxurious sheets. I'm probably going to be so grateful that this is my life and I get to live today. And so grateful for my health before I even open my eyes. And then as I get out of bed, what are my practices? So your higher self is going to give you sort of a play-by-play of things that you can do on a daily basis to embody that. And the next part is execution. So do what you say you're going to do. So energy, embodiment, and execution. So
do you feel like the execution's a lot easier once you have that visual, right? Then it almost gives you the desire.
Yeah, it can be. And so today, one of my embodiment practices or execution practices was pitching myself for some high profile podcasts. So I'm embodying who I am as a speaker. I know what I bring to the table. I've done interviews and I've got all this great experience. But I'm still just a little girl who wants people to like me inside. And I'm afraid that if I send an email that they're going to reject me or tell me it's not good enough.
Yeah, and that's like the wounded version talking, right? And we don't want that wounded version of us like ruling our life. We want the empowered, embodied Emily that doesn't have that imposter syndrome, believes she's worthy, that doesn't need success to feel loved, right? Just
that's it.
Already loved and successful, both, either way.
Yes. So it's like, all right, I'm going to go for some big air. I'm going to pitch myself for some big air, and I'm going to go for some safe ones. I decided that I'm going to say yes to stages, and stages are going to say yes to me. And sometimes especially as women, this is like a special one for the ladies. We do not ask for what we want and we get upset that we can't have it. What we want, it wants us back too. There's no reason why we can't have it. I can look at, let's say, Dave Asprey and be like, I want to be featured on his biohacking summit next year. I think that would be awesome. Great audience, great energy. I want to be featured. If that idea has dropped into my head, I believe it's out there in the quantum field and it's already done.
Right. I love that you just said that.
It's already done. So I have to match that vibrational frequency so it can just come to me.
Right. Well, you said, just to wrap things up here with respect for time for you, but the embodiment and the whole, like, as simple as it is to visualize yourself in this other role, if we keep looking at it as future as we move forward, it's still in the future. And I did this amazing meditation last year on bringing the future self, exactly what you were talking about, right? And it's just proof of what you're saying. I did this embodiment or this meditation where I brought my future self, my highest self, and it merged with me now.
Yes.
And suddenly, because I've had this 25-year-old novel that's just been rotating in my mind, and in the future, I'm going to get to it. And it's a soul chosen novel. I know that the universe chose me to tell this story. It's not just, hey, I want to write a book. And after I did that meditation, immediately, like probably 2 weeks later, and it was just what we call coincidence, but just out of nowhere, I ran into this collaborative company that next thing you know, they signed with me and I'm writing my book. Where did that come from? Well, it's because I brought my future self to here. I embodied it. And then it just shows up, right? We always worry about the how. It'll just show up. It'll just show up.
Yes. There's this really great, very short book that I recommend to my students all the time. I probably have it around here somewhere. Oh, I do. It's called Dollars Flow to Me Easily by Richard Dotz. It's, an afternoon read. And he says that change happens in one of two ways. It can happen when you put a lot of effort and thought and energy and planning and strategy behind it. And it can also happen immediately and spontaneously. And so I started keeping a journal of all of these spontaneous things that I manifested I didn't even know I was asking for, because there's something that happens when you can start to wire your brain to go, great things happen to me all the time. I don't even have to ask. And of course, ask and you shall receive. The universe is taking notes and putting your order into the kitchen. But in this instance, for example, I remember one day I told my husband, okay, tonight's a takeout night. We're going to take the kids to karate and then we'll go out. And he's like, okay, great. I went on a client call. I got off my client call. I went downstairs and he said, guess what? Our neighbor came over when you were on the call and she said she'd like to take us out to dinner tonight. And I said, okay, that's great. She's our Nana. We've adopted her as our family grandmother. And I cook for her all the time. So it wasn't unusual that she wanted to treat us to something, but I wasn't expecting that, and I really wasn't even asking for it.
But to your point, but pay attention to those moments. We dismiss them all the time.
We dismiss them. And one of the programs that I've been running is called Quantum Flow. And that is one of the things that we start doing is creating basically tracker of the things that you want to do in your life to align you to your higher self. And then also tracking the things that are like this beautiful random abundance that shows up in your life. And every single call, week after week, we share a celebration of what was abundant in your life. And I remember somebody said, listen, I was invited to this workshop and I haven't done a lot of networking. And I really have been wanting to do some more of these in-person networking events. And while I was at that event, 2 people reached out to me who want to work with me. And she's somebody who's a coach helping people write their memoirs. So she's like, I mean, that was great. I got a random invitation and now I got people who want to work with me. So everybody's winning. So wow. It's truly all around us. When we start to bring our attention to it, it actually does amplify. It happens even more so.
I agree with that so much. Well, Emily, I could speak to you all day. You have dropped so many beautiful golden nuggets. That was so beautiful. Thank you for being so open and so authentic and vulnerable and teaching us some wonderful energetic practices, some practical practices that we can tap into our soul. If people want to follow you or find you, where can they find you?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, because if people are still listening, it means that we've gone for this ride together. And I just want to say thank you. And please make sure to leave Julie a very nice review. That's the best gift that you can give any podcaster. Tell her how much you love her podcast and what a great host she is. Because Julie, you are a great host. You have awesome questions. And, this energy was being built between both of us for your audience. It's been really spectacular. So, if you're interested in working with me, you can find my website, emilyarons.com. All of my social links are there. Every week, I'm posting to my new YouTube channel. So, energy tips, meditations, and I also do live channeling and do live workshops every week. So there's a lot of fun stuff going there. I do hang out on Instagram sometimes as well. So wherever you are, I'm probably there too. And I'd love to connect.
Great. Well, maybe we'll have you come back and do some channeling for us.
I would love to.
That's one of my favorite things to do as well. I love this conversation, Emily. I love the energetic exchange, and you've really increased my vibration in this past hour. So thank you so much. And to all the listeners, if today's podcast has hit home for you, don't forget to subscribe and come back. And Emily, thanks again. We're going to put all of your information down when I do post it in the YouTube, all your information, so that anybody can get in touch with you.
Thank you.